Alright, hey everybody. Been a long time no see. I haven't done a live painting session in I can't remember how long. So, what we're going to paint with today is we have Phthalo Green, Dark Sienna, Alizarin Crimson, Prussian Blue, Midnight Black, and Titanium White. Now, normally I like to have an idea of what I'm going to do or which color I'm going to start with before I go into a painting, but today we're just going to let it rip. So we'll see what it looks like when it comes out. Don't blame me if it's bad. It's been a long time. We're going to grab a little bit of white right on the edge of our 1-inch brush. You can see how small mine is from beating the devil out of it. I've got our paint thinner down here, and I've got my beater bucket down here that looks a lot like this. It's just a Lowe's bucket with a golf ball basket down the bottom, flipped upside down so I can take and kind of beat the devil out of my brushes. We're going to try to keep this one under an hour. That way it won't be too cumbersome for anybody, so let's get started right away, alright? Get your 16 by 20 canvas, cover it in liquid clear, wipe it off with a paper towel, and just add a couple random colors up in the sky, and then we'll see what happens. Let's get our 1-inch brush up here, and we're going to decide where our clouds are going to live, and who knows, maybe they might live up here. You got to be careful with this white against the black. It's going to show up really, really easily and really bright against this black canvas. And I'm sorry about the shadows if there's any. Like I said, it's been a while since I've done any painting. And you can see just from adding that white, it's mixed in with the blue that we put in the sky, a little bit of the green, a little bit of the red. The more we do, the more you're gonna see it. So we're gonna switch brushes here to a fan brush and make some different shaped clouds. Just on both sides of the fan brush. Let's say a big sucker lives up in here. You never want it to be straight a cloud, so just literally get up there and make a mess is what I like to say. Doesn't have to look like anything, doesn't have to be a certain shape. You just literally want to make a mess and fix it as we go along, basically. Alright, I don't want to get too crazy with the clouds. Maybe a little bit brighter over here. Like that, and we'll see what happens, and see what it looks like. I'm going to go back to my 1-inch brush, which I haven't cleaned, and we're just going to make small circles, just like this. You don't want to blend it all out exactly the same. You want it to, some parts be brighter, some parts be darker, and that's going to give you these cool shadows and different colors and stuff inside your clouds as we spin in a circle. That's all we're going to do is spin in a circle. Make sure we're leaving some gaps in between. Like I said, you don't want everything to get a little bit of crimson up here. Bits where it's really white, bits where it's not so white. And just bring it down. All this stuff underneath here, we're going to cover, so you don't have to worry about what it looks like at the bottom. As we start from the top and work our way down, by the time we get to the bottom, we're going to have a painting, believe it or not. Let's go like that. Just literally make a mess and scrub it out. It's a little bit too white over here for me, so I'm going to get the littlest bit of crimson and throw that in there, just give it a little bit of pinkish color. Maybe a little bit more green. Over here I got people blowing up my Etsy shop right now. Maybe you guys might see a sale happen in the moment, which would be neat. Alright, we've literally got this mess of clouds up here. I like to paint a dramatic sky full of clouds and color. And on a black canvas, it's hard to get color up in your sky. But you can see we've got these, you can even take them and blend them if you want. Make them real soft. Because our mountain's going to come up in here and cover a lot of this. So, like I said, just make a mess and then fix it as you go along. Blend it, make it nice and soft, and we're just literally taking the brush and making circles with it, that's all. Not a hard way to make clouds. And if you wanted to go back in and brighten up an area, say in here, you don't want it to be that dark, just put a little bit of white on there and mix it up. See where you go. And you're just, depending on how textured you want your clouds, you're either touching really lightly or you're really pushing in there. I don't know if you can hear the difference. But that's what you gotta do. You gotta mess with it. There's no right way or wrong way. It's only your way, how you do it. And that's the right way. It's almost impossible to get the exact amount of pressure that I'm putting on, or that anybody that you're watching other tutorials, you don't know how hard they're pressing, don't know what they're mixing, they've done it before, you haven't. So just work with it, see what it looks like. Try. What's the worst that's gonna happen? We're gonna take this and repaint over it all black, then we got a fresh canvas to work with, you know what I mean? It's no big deal. Alright, we'll take and we're gonna fluff our clouds up, which is basically just pushing and flattening down the paint, the raised paint that's on there. And doing a nice look. If you start to get a big piece, like I'll show you, get a big piece like that that's not very blended, and you go to swipe it up and it becomes this long stretch, just go into a couple more circles until you can swipe up and it doesn't really mess up the shape of your cloud, right? Then we'll go back and forth across our whole thing, and now we've got this big cloudy sky full of greens and blues and reds and pinks and white, obviously, all over the place. So let's wash our brush here, down into the beater bucket. Sorry if my big head gets in the way, it happens all the time. What are we going to do next is the question. Josh, what are we going to do? Where are we going to go from here? A lot of times I'll take a step back from it and kind of look and say, you know, if I added a hill or a mountain or a peak up here, you know, where are we going to go from there? Where is it going to flow downwards to us? So I think I have an idea. And what we'll do to make our mountain is go right into the black and the blue and the crimson and just mix it up till it's nice and dark. Don't want to have any of the red or blue or black showing on its own. I want it to be this nice uniform dark color. And just mix and mix and mix. This is the part that we normally cut out of the videos because nobody wants to sit here and watch you mix color. And we're going to get a nice good glob of it on the end of our palette knife and come up and make a big decision. Where is our mountain going to live? Are we going to put the peak over here and have tall trees on this side? We're going to put the peak over here and have tall trees on this side. I really like the way these clouds look over here, so we're going to go like this and just start globbing on the shape of our mountain in this blackish color. You might even mix it with some white. Maybe a little bit more white in there. Mix it with some white and we'll be able to see on camera anyway where it's going. Right? There we go. That. You don't want it to mix with too much white to get into your cloud color though, because then you're not going to be able to distinguish what is mountain and what isn't. We'll come down, a couple little bumps and humps. Doesn't need to be a perfect straight line. You don't want triangles up there, you know what I mean? You get these triangles and they don't look like a realistic mountain unless you're painting a pyramid. So, you know, have a little mini seizure with your hand. Just all over the place, right? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what you do. The more little imperfections and humps and stuff we put in there, the more realistic it's going to look. All right, let's see what that looks like. Take that and grab our 1-inch brush. Let me start down here. We'll just blend this sucker out. Put a little bit of white in there so you can see where we're going down to the end of the horizon here. And I'm sorry if I stop talking while I paint. I tend to do that a lot. I'll forget that I'm trying to show you guys what I'm doing, and so I'll stop speaking in the middle of it and just paint and then go, oh shit, I'm supposed to be telling you guys what we're doing here and how I'm doing this. Let's get a little bit more white just to give us some, there we go, now we can kind of see what our mountain's going to do. And right there, I kind of went out of where my mountain was. It's all right, just smooth it out. Give it a, it's got another little bump that gives it a little bit more character. Doesn't need to be a perfect straight triangle looking mountain. If your mountains look like triangles all the time, you know you can spot a beginner that way. Got to give it some humps and bumps, give it some light areas. Throw some white down here at the bottom because we're going to end up giving it some fog, okay? So why don't we put a little bit of white. You don't want it to have a straight line either. You want to be at different heights, different levels. Come down mountain this way, and that way when we mix it up with our paint, we're gonna have this nice foggy mountain. It might look like it's almost floating in space right there. Alright, so everybody seems to differ on when to put the shadows in. Some people like to put the snow, the highlights on first, and then go back and fill in the shadows. But for me, I like to put the shadows in first, and then I know where I need to go with my highlights, right? So what we'll do is we'll take a little bit of blue. I'm talking just a little bit, because the blue is very powerful with the white. And we want to brighten it up. And then we're going to take a bit of black, or our little mountain mixture, and just kind of dull it down just enough. Mix and mix and mix until it's this bluish, grayish color. Might have put in too much there. There we go. You got this blue, gray, black all in the same little pile here. So we're going to imagine our light source coming from this side. So why don't we take our shadows and we'll put them in. So we're going to have our white snow over here, kind of casting a shadow into our darker colored gray snow over here. Now I'm doing the same exact thing, just getting a little bit of line, on the paint, on the palette knife here, and just barely touching. I mean, just barely, right? You push too hard, and it's going to leave this straight mark. It's not going to break at all, right? So what we want to do, and a lot of times it helps if you get more. If you're having trouble making your snow break, grab more paint and try. Because then it will break in these different spots, and you just want to be as light as you can, and then you'll see that it breaks just like snow does on the mountain. And a lot of people, I've seen a lot of questions about that, like how do you work your snow? How do you get the snow to break? And the answer is you may not have enough paint on your palette knife in order for it to grab and break up that. So now we've got our blue shadows in there, kind of grayish blue. And don't over force it, right? If, like I was just trying to do right here and get a little bit more shadow there, but the canvas didn't want to take it. And the more you over force it, the more you're going to cover up all these little breaks and cool little textured bits to your mountain. So don't overdo it. All right, we're going to get a little bit more white and just go straight white with the blue. Just the littlest bit of blue though. We don't want pure white snow. At night, even in movies, at night, to make it look like night, they add a little bit of blue color to the lights, right? So we don't want it to be fresh white, we just want it to have a little twinge of blue in there. And the same thing, we're going to start, now we're going to go in our white areas and just let it slowly break along the mountain, all the way down to the bottom. Okay, and this is our shadowy bit, so maybe we come in here, didn't get enough of it there. Come in here, you want to have light against dark against light against dark. You don't want to have it all the same color. And I do it in my mountains sometimes, and I look at it, and I'm like, dang, I got all the same color. You know, it's all white. There's no shadows left in my mountains. Like, what happened? What did I forgot there. Art is a play of light. You have light and dark. And just very lightly. And it doesn't all have to look the same. You don't want it to look the same, actually. Should we even take some pure white and toss it in over that. And you can play with these shadows and highlights all day long. But in our case, I don't want to do that too much. Just put the littlest bits of white in here just to kind of highlight our highlights almost. Over there. Again, you don't want to overwork it. You don't want to do too much. You don't want to push too hard. Okay, down here still doesn't matter. We can do whatever we want. We can wipe off our palette knife. We can clean our brushes all down here on the bottom because it makes little difference. Let's get a little bit more white right here. Do our last little shadowy bit along the edge. Just let it break. Shoot, we can even put in some straight up black just to make it. We get these real dark crevices in the mountain on this side. You can do that anywhere you want. You can put them literally anywhere. It's like having a little cave right in the midst of all that white. Now you look like you've got these cool shadows. And if you don't like that, you can go back with your white and just cover over it. And all we're doing is sticking layer on layer on layer on layer of all this paint. And the more layers you have, the cooler it's going to look. Just remember, don't overwork it. Don't do too much like I'm doing right now. I'm trying to do too damn much. What I'm trying to make here is a little, like an arc shape. Like that, where we come down, right? We've made this little kind of turn. And then underneath that, we want to put some shadows, because this whole piece is casting a shadow down here. You know, real dark, and on the other side of that shadow, a little bit more of this snow comes down. And like I said, you can sit here and play with this all night until you like the way it looks. Doesn't have to look like mine, doesn't have to look like anybody's, it's gotta look like yours. Now we've got this wicked kind of peak that's casting this shadow over here. Maybe a little bit more white on this side, and just let it break. Whatever sticks will stick, whatever doesn't, don't force it to. Let's get a little bit more. Ooh, yeah, right there. I like that. Alright, now I said we were going to make that fog out of all this paint that we've been mushing at the bottom of our painting, of our mountain. And people have all sorts of ways to make their fog, but I'm going to show you how I do it. Now, especially when you're using liquid clear, I'll give you a tip. You really, really, really want to make sure that your brush is dry, because liquid paint thinner or liquid mineral spirits or whatever you're using to clean your brushes will interact with this liquid clear and cause it to either drip or kind of make these weird little spots, which is, it's cool if that's what you're going for. But how we're doing it today, we want to have it as dry as possible, so really dabbing it on some paper towel down here. You might not be able to see. So when Bob does it, he likes to tap at the base of the mountain, right? You can do that, or I found the same, you get the same kind of reaction if you just make these little circles, right? And we don't want to have it straight across. You want to have little humps and little valleys where it's higher or lower. You don't just want to have this straight razor blade line across of fog. And it doesn't ever react like that. And the more that you scrub at this or do your little circles, the softer it's going to become. If you want to add some white, you can make it brighter. I'm just going to kind of go out to the horizon here, and it's going to get less and less and less and less over here. Make it a little brighter on this side. You just want to have this foggy look to it. Right? So you put that down. Hit it with our brush like Bob does. You can blend it. You can do whatever you want to do, just so you get this foggy look. This nice little hazy looking mountain. Looks like it's just floating out in space right now. And that's the look that we want. We've got our wicked clouds up the top. Shoot, you can even take while we're here. Might as well. I've got a little lid. It's just an older lid of some liquid white that I use as a little kind of petri dish mixer that I've got here. Get the smallest little liner brush you have. Get some liquid white in there and just tap in a couple little stars, just as light as possible. Right in the darkest areas of your sky, you can just put a couple little stars in there. And the harder you push, the bigger your star is going to be. So just very lightly touch. Obviously, we don't want to do it down here in our clouds because you really wouldn't see a lot of those shining through the clouds. See that one? I pushed too much. I made it into a little flat line. But no worries. With the liquid white, you take it and literally mix it out until it's gone. Also, while we're here, I didn't even plan on doing this, but we're going to do it anyway. Show you how I make my lightning. Right? We'll do a little bit of lightning in the storm up here. You want to pick a light area, either at the bottom of your cloud or at the top. You know what I mean? here, the bottom of this cloud or the bottom of this cloud. Just kind of pick a cloud and rock and roll. So you just basically touch a little bit of circle and then kind of just have a little mini seizure on the way down. Just like that. Yeah, we're gonna go back in. We're gonna take it at one of the points where it turns and we're gonna go the other way. And just have a little seizure on the way down. You don't want it to be straight. And the trick with this is it starts looking so good that you want to keep doing it. But you've got to stop yourself. Let's see. A lot of times, I'll show you my little cheat. I've got a thing like this, a little yardstick, just to get the right kind of consistency in my lightning. Bam, you got your little lightning stack over there. You do one more over on this side. You do it going like this. Just a little guy. Maybe this arm's a little bit longer. Just like that, right? Like I said, don't go crazy. It starts looking good. And then you're like, ooh, you do some more of those and more of those. And then sooner you get the whole thing full of lightning and you've kind of ruined your sky that you were going for. Now, we're going to grab a filbert brush, or you can use a 1-inch brush or the 2-inch brush or a fan brush even. But for my case, I'm going to use a filbert brush and just grab the littlest bit of that first little circle we made and kind of brighten it up into that cloud. So it looks like when the cloud lit up and shot lightning out, the light has bounced back up against the cloud. Same thing on this side. Now we have this little white area, or lighter colored area, where the cloud is lit up from this lightning burst that's come out, right? Bam! And just kind of mess with it until you like the way that it looks. So it's going to come down and light that mountain up right there. Alright, so it's always fun not knowing what you're going to paint and trying to do it in front of other people. It's about 98% of my paintings I go into, and I have no idea where we're going to go or what it's going to look like. But we get to points like this, and I look at it and I say, okay, well, judging by the base of this mountain, you know, our horizon might be right here. So we could do anything you want. You could add some trees, you know, just a couple trees. You could add a whole forest into this fog. You could put water down the bottom if you wanted to. Which I think we'll do that. I haven't done a painting with water in a long time. I like to make mine so busy without so much to look at that I forget to do water sometimes. So like I said, with the pink and blues and purples and greens that I did up in the sky, I also did that down here on the bottom with these streaks. So what we'll do, let me just take a little bit of our Prussian Blue, do a couple streaks back and forth that way. All right, we've got our red, or our crimson down on the bottom. Shoot, you can even mix them and make purple. It doesn't matter. It does not matter what you want to do. Whatever you do is the right way. Right? We're literally making a mess. You guys thought with my clouds, initially you're like, what is this guy doing? Like, chill out, bro. But no, now you see. Shoot, we can even put some of that color up in our fog and have some. That's a good idea, actually. Why don't we take a little bit of the Phthalo Green and we can put it up into our fog, just a little. See if we can turn this fog kind of greenish. And even with the fan brush, I mean, you don't need to have multiple brushes. You don't have to have the whole Bob Ross set. You don't have to have the exact same brushes that I have. You can literally do anything you want with the brushes that you have. Now our fog has got this little pink twinge to it. You know what we forgot to do? Just kind of swipe up on our mountains here. And when I'm doing this, I'm barely touching. You can see just that little bit of white paint down there. Just touching so softly in the way that we did our mountain. On this side we came up and went this way, right? And that just kind of blends the bottom, kind of mushes it down a little bit, and gives us more of our fog to work with. Come on. Paint all over my hands. Alright, Let's put a little bit of that white, go back in. All right, a little bit more. When you paint with me, you need a lot of white. You need a lot of white paint. I love using white paint. There we go. I'm not going to over mix it, I'm just going to mix it. And we'll go across just like we did with our clouds in the sky. It's the same sort of idea. And then bam. Alright, what are we going to do along the bottom here is a question. So we can get rid of some of this stuff. Get rid of that. Save our little mountain pile over here because we're going to add to that and make our trees with those same kind of mixture of colors. So a little bit of green is going to look like here, we'll find out. All I'm doing is just mushing it on with my palette knife, so when I go across it with the 1 or 2 inch brush, your blender brush, it's going to pick up all the color. Alright, let's throw some water in there. Get some more white. It's going to pick, see that? It's going to pick up all these different colors. And you don't want to overdo it and mix them all away or mix them all the same. You want to have a pretty straight line, straight as you can get it. All right? Leave a little bit of black in between your swipes in. All right, and then the closer we get to us, the bigger the black's going to get. Let's say that. And who knows? This, you know, we may get 5 minutes ahead and not like the way this water looks and change it into snow or something else, or maybe the majority of it will be covered. But we want to get it down here just so we can tell in our mind what the hell we're trying to do, right? Especially when you've never painted a painting before. Never made one like this before. We're literally making it up as we go along. So let's just put it in there. That way we know where our horizon is, right? This is the water we're going to be working with. Where our fog is and all that. I'm going to go back and forth. Don't want a lot of color. Shoot, we need to mix these. We might put a bush down there. Back and forth, just like that. Alright, what are we going to do, Josh? What are we going to do? Here's the question. Never satisfied with my clouds. There we go. Fix that. Let's see, what are we gonna do? There's something I don't like about this up here. A little bit more white. A couple little shadows in there. Alright, we could do a forest. We could do whatever we want to do. We can even say this is snow. Let's make it snow. Let's do that. Screw the water idea. Alright, what I'm doing is kind of making where you really can't tell where our fog and our horizon line begin. And we'll do like a darker version of a painting I did the other day. I'll change it up. Like that. Sorry if my head gets in the way. I get sick of holding my palette after so long. Alright, now we've got this snow-covered meadow with all these kind of aurora borealis lights bouncing off of this freshly laid snow at night, right? I'll blend this out. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have a little set of trees over here, a bit of a larger one over here, and then a large one over here on the side. Let's do that. So in order to do that, we're going to need a lot more tree color paints here. So remember, blue, black, red. Kind of mix them into this really dark color. Add a little bit of white for our farthest off tree. And then as they come closer, they'll get darker to us. Shoot, you can even add a little bit of the Phthalo Green in there. Doesn't matter. Take every color that you have on the palette and add that in there. It literally doesn't matter. As long as it's dark, right? Keep it dark. Go back to our same dirty old paintbrush, fan brush. Get it on both sides. Not all the way up, just on the tips, right? You don't want to have it so full at this point. But nice and thick right on the tips. And then back here, we can do, let's just do a little tree back here. Right? I like to make the line all the way down, and then when I'm doing it, a lot of people do Bob's trees where they sag downward, in which you're pushing down, and as the brush bends, it makes this downward shape. But I like the upward shape. So start with just the corner of the brush, okay? And push the corner and push up. So we made this little bit of a shape there. So take the corner, push up, and then the further you get down, the more you push in, and then you start to make these kind of rotations. Right? And you want it to be nice and thick on there. Because when we go to put our highlight color on, we want some nice thick paint to stick to. And you can go as tall as you want. Try to get it as small as you can. Take all the way up. I know it's hard to see until we kind of do the highlight color, but stick with me. Stick with me. Alright, a lot of times I'll forget to do it. And I just need the littlest bit of white paint left because I seem to have gone through it. Like I said, you paint with me, you're gonna use a lot of white, okay? So we're gonna take our white, we're gonna mix it with the brown over here to make our tree trunk color. And since it's night, we're gonna use more brown than white, okay? We don't want it to be super noticeable. So again, get the same little or thick line of paint. And I'm gonna do it upside down so I don't stay in your guys' way. And just kind of touch it, touch it, touch it. And towards the bottom, you can start to drag it over. And you can even go out of the tree a little bit. As you get to the top, it's got to be real thin. You don't want to have too much of it up there. Okay, so let's do another one here. Just a little guy off to the side of him over here. And go off like that. It's him and his little buddy hanging out in the middle of the Aurora Borealis winter. Just chilling. Now again, we're going to do the same thing, but we don't want to have, we don't want to have it look the same. So maybe let's put a little bit up at the top, and then we'll skip a little bit. Maybe skip a bit at the bottom. Now we've got these gaps in between. And that way when someone looks at it closely, they're not going to really see that it's all the same thing. You don't want it to look exactly the same. Take this, kind of stick it out the top a little bit. Same thing here, make it nice and pointy. Right out the top. And we'll grab our 1-inch brush, and we'll just kind of take the bottom of these and give us a little bit of shadow by pulling straight to the side. You don't want to pull down or go the other way, because our shadows, actually we want to pull it to the right. And pull it to the right because our light source, since our mountains are going this way, our light's coming in from here, and pull it to the right. And with all this dark paint, you can see that it's kind of casting a little shadow into our lighter colored night snow, right? Like that. Go back in. We're gonna, since we flattened out our big pile of paint, scrape it up again, start again, get a whole bunch right into your brush. Now, in order to show that the next tree is higher than this tree, right, we need it to be taller, okay? We're still below our mountains for this first set, but the next one we're going to go a little bit taller, right, a little bit over. You don't want to cover the nice peak that we made, right? And then we're going to go, since it's taller, we want to be lower than our peaks down here, okay? That's not the straightest line, but it doesn't matter. Now, initially, you can start out, same thing, just the tip. Start coming down, but now once you get over your mountain, all this black and white are going to start to mix. And so what we do is get the littlest bit of paint thinner, just the littlest bit, right? Because we're using liquid clear. And we don't want paint thinner on liquid clear, but we want it to pass right over this stuff. And a lighter paint will stick to a thicker paint. So as we come down, we're going to pass right over that stuff. If it starts getting caught, that means that this paint is mixing with that other thick paint and it's too thick. And it's not going to work out and you're going to start making mud. Okay? Remember, you want it to be thick, so if it's not sticking and adhering to the canvas in different places, come back and get more paint. You can always go back to the box and get more paint in order to make it look the way we want to look. Right? It's got to be nice and chunky and thick in order for our highlight color to stick to it. And as you can see, we've burned through our entire pile that we made. So we're going to go back in and make some more, because this next tree is going to have to be even bigger than the first tree here, or the middle tree. Otherwise, it's going to look further in the distance. If it's closer and bigger, it's going to look closer to us. And in this painting, we're kind of coming down this, you know, we got this snow-covered meadow, we got our fog in the background, and we're just making our way towards us here. So let's get it all up into one pile up here. I'm not sure if you can see, I mean, it's a lot of paint in there. I'm going to go through again. And this one's going to be taller than this tree and lower as well, so leave yourself some room. And we'll come down, and then we'll stop about right there. Again, before we do that, why don't we take this guy, pull him out, and that way his shadow can kind of cast this way. You can see we're still a little bit lower than we are here, and that shows these aren't on the same plane or the same distance. This one's a little bit closer, so it's a little bit bigger. Okay, we're going to grab the rest of our paint. We're going to come up here. And just with the tip of the brush, not the whole flat side, just with the corner. Right? Corner of the brush and push up, and then whatever sticks will stick. Right? Same thing. And then as you get down further, then you can start using the whole sides of the, the whole brush against the canvas. But up at the top, you want to just use the tip of it like you're, just touching it. Just the tip of the corner of the brush. Right? Nice and thick. All the way down. And obviously, as we come down, it's going to get bigger for the trees that we'd like to paint anyway. There we go. Like that. Doesn't all have to fill in, doesn't have to be the same. You want to leave some spaces where, you can see your branch and you can see the color behind it. Like this guy over here, because he's further off in the distance, we can't see a lot of stuff that's behind him. It's a very thick kind of tree. This guy's a little bit thinner, a little bit taller, so you don't want to mush all those nice, thick, textured bits of paint that we did, right? Remember, you want it to stick, because otherwise we're going to have nothing for our highlight to stick to. And if you start mixing mud around the side, just grab the littlest bit of paint thinner, mix it in, and make that nice little shape when you go over your thick mountains in the background, right? For this guy, we're going to pull out just a little bit this way, and a little bit on a downward angle, not straight across, not 45 degrees down, but just slightly down. And that shows him on top of a little hill. We've got these different planes of snow as it's coming through our valley. All right. Now we don't want to use paint thinner to make our highlight color thinner, right? Because it's going to start to really damage what we've done with this nice, beautiful painting. So we're going to use liquid white instead. You could use liquid clear too. If you wanted to keep it nice and dark and want dark green highlights, then use the liquid clear to mix with your green, and that way it'll stay a dark color. But if you want nice bright highlights in your tree, then you're going to want to go with like a liquid white, because that's going to make everything a brighter hue and a brighter color Let's see. That. Got our tree trunk. They don't have to be straight, and it doesn't have to be uniform. It doesn't have to go from the top to the bottom. You want broken areas because we're going to cover over it, and you're not going to see a lot of that. So you can either cover it with color, if you wanted to have green trees, or in this instance, I'm going to go with just having some white snow, maybe a tinge of just a little bit of blue color to our white snow like we had up here. This nice little shadowy blue color, and we'll paint our trees with that there. Got our tree trunks all the way down to the bottom. So what we'll do is get our liquid white, we'll make a little pile of it. We're going to grab some titanium white and mix these together. And then we're going to grab that littlest bit of blue just to give us our kind of highlight color snow. Look at that color right there. Now you can use the same brush you've been using, but I don't like the same brush size to make the highlights as I do to make the base of the tree. So with ours, why don't we drop down a size or two, and we'll go with this fan brush. It's so beat up, it's a size 8. So let's see, and what I like to do, just, you don't want to get the whole brush full of color again. Just the bottom 1/4 of it. Okay, we're going to go back here, same thing, we're just going to touch it with the corner of the brush, very, very lightly. You don't want to push in as hard as you did when you were making the tree. Right, just very lightly. And you want to leave room. You don't want to cover up all this dark. You want to leave some room. There we go. Leave some room in between your highlight colors, and that way it doesn't all look the same color, right? Come back here. Each time you come back, you're going to make it a little bit darker. So you either need to wash your brush each time, or live with it, basically. Again, we're just using the bottom corner, the tip corner of the brush, just going back and forth in order to make our trees. Just the highlights of the trees. We've already seen how to do the base color, okay? We're going to come up again just the corner. We're not going to come at it like this. You don't want to come at it flat. You want to come at it on an angle. So just the corner. And then the more you come down, the harder you're going to push. But you're still barely touching. So, right, we're not trying to squish our old shape. And we're not trying to cover up all that dark either. You want to have some dark. And then obviously the more you come down to the bottom, you don't want to have it as bright as it is at the top. So now we're going to have to wash this brush a little bit. Get it nice and dry on a paper towel. We're going to have to go back to our blue. Come back and mix it in a little bit more. We want a little bit darker blue for this very front tree. And then same thing, we just want to use the corner of the brush and just have it stick to those thick bits of paint that are, hanging out there waiting to get some highlight. Turn your brush over. And again, do not cover up all this dark. Otherwise your tree is going to look like it has no dimension. It's not going to, if it's all the same color, then it's not going to look as good. Okay, a little bit more blue. And mix it in. A little bit more liquid white down here. We really want it nice and liquidy in order to stick. Okay. And the nice thing about using a smaller brush on these bigger limbs is you get these cool little bits where it may stick in some areas and may not stick in other areas. You know what I mean? If you have the same size brush, you're going to have the same pattern. But with a smaller brush, you're going to have this difference in pattern there, which is end up looking really cool. Alright, let's get rid of this little imperfection right there. Just swipe it along the bottom of this snow. And we can put, I mean, you can do anything. What time are we at right here? How long have we been doing this? How long have we been going? Just about an hour. So like I said, that's where we wanted to be. About an hour. We got a finished painting right here. And you can continue, you can add bushes at the bottom if you'd like. There's really no sense in taking and scraping in any sticks or trees. But we can put a couple little bits in there just to give it a little bit of a touch. A couple little pieces of grass or something sticking out the bottom of it here. Little imperfections. The imperfections in there. Nothing is ever perfect. So grab those imperfections and work them in. Alright, got that. Now we can take at the bottom again and swipe that liquid white right away. It literally disappears. And now we've got our cool little imperfections at the bottom of our tree. Little bits of frozen sticks coming up. And yeah, I'd call it a finished painting. So what we're going to do now is we'll sign the dang thing. I really like that actually. I like the way that looks. Take it over here, we're going to sign it. As well sign it down in the corner down here. And you can use whatever color you like to sign it in. I usually sign it in just straight liquid white. The majority of my paintings are signed in just liquid white. It's usually because by that time I'm so sick of trying to work something and get it perfect that I don't know, I don't even want to mix up the other colors with the white. And in this case it kind of sticks out nice. So, if you guys like this painting, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my YouTube channel, at Happy Little Landscapes. I'm just going to fix a couple bits right here. And yeah, this painting will be for sale in my Etsy shop later on. If you're interested in buying it, it'll look great in any room. It's a beautiful piece. And my Etsy shop is, what is it? Etsy.com/shop/Happy Little Landscapes /Happy Landscape Art. Sorry. I'm trying to think about too many things at once here. There we go. So it's available for sale. Like my page, Happy Little Landscapes. Follow me on YouTube, Instagram at Happy Little Landscapes. On Facebook, you can search at Happy Landscape Art, and you'll find my Facebook page, which is titled Happy Little Landscapes. And until that, we'll see you guys on the next painting.